Hey guys, it's Brigitte with San Diego Seed Company, and we are here at a local San Diego nursery, and I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that you need to look for when you're picking out your starts in fall or spring, but these are really key things that you need to be successful. I know it's really hard sometimes to do seed starting, and trust me, with this little guy, starts look really appealing right now because it's really hard to get anything done. So I'm gonna help you be successful and give you 5 tips on how to pick out your starts. But before I do that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so the number 1 thing that's most important that you wanna look for when you're looking for your starts is, are they root bound? And what does root bound mean? Basically, has that plant been in that tray for way too long? Well, here's how you know. Take your plant here and pull out the start and examine the roots. Now this looks pretty good. There's a lot of roots on there, but you'll know when it's root bound because literally the roots are so tight and wound around here that this is rock hard and you cannot break it up. The reason why that matters is if you take that root bound plant and you stick it in the ground, especially if you don't break up the roots first, it doesn't even know that it's out of its container and in the ground where it can grow, and it will be very stunted. It's also just a sign that it's been in this pot for too long and it needed to be potted up. That's your job as a gardener. When you purchase these 6-packs, you're basically potting them up in a sense by putting them in a bigger vessel, whether that's your raised bed, a pot, or in the ground. But the longer they stay in here, the less healthy they're gonna be by the time you transplant them. Now let's say you go to a nursery and everything is root bound. That's okay, it's gonna happen because these are grown all at the same time. Maybe they don't sell as quickly, or maybe they just grow really fast. That's okay. When you plant them, make sure you take them, break up the roots, and if you're a little concerned about how to do that, a little cheat trick I like to do is I will stick this in a pot of water to help break up the roots so I don't feel like I'm being as rough, and then plant it into the ground. Keep in mind, anytime you break up the root mass, you need to compensate with extra water and plenty of water, because as you break up those roots, it's gonna wilt even quicker. So I just talked to Steven over here, the manager at La Costa Nursery, and he gave us a great tip. You can actually ask when they're going to get in their veggie shipments, so you can come and get the freshest veggies possible that are less likely to be root bound and best for your garden. So tip number 2, it's related, but really important, is bigger isn't always better. I know that's counterintuitive, especially if you're a new gardener. You want the biggest plant in the pot that you can potentially afford, but keep in mind, the bigger the plant in the pot, the more likely it's going to be root bound. And you want to get it into your garden when it's at a good size so that it can grow very quickly and uninhibited by root bound roots. So if you're looking at a table full of starts like this, it's always important that you look at your plants and examine the roots. That'll give you a good idea. And if they're all about the same, I would pick the smaller one out of these size pots because I know that they have likely not been in there as long and that they're fresher veggies to go into your garden. So number 3 to look for when you're picking out your plants is, obviously you want the most healthy looking plants. So you really want to steer clear away from stuff that has too many yellow leaves. Now, a little bit of them is okay. You'll notice that these are on here. And this parsley plant has so many leaves that these can actually easily be pulled off, and you're still gonna have a very nice, robust, healthy plant. Actually, I should work here because I'm doing some work here, huh? But this is still big enough and healthy enough to go into the ground. But let's say you have something like, everything looks amazing here, so I don't have a really good example, but like, for example, if you had some small leafy greens like these guys that were really yellow and only a few leaves look happy, that's probably not the best one to pick out, especially when you have a huge table of starts to choose from. So if you're picking out your starts and it looks sickly, make sure you pick out the most healthy out of the batch that you have. And when you are in doubt, always ask somebody that works at the nursery, especially if you're shopping at a small local nursery, because they're gonna have great advice and help you pick out the best one. All right, tip number 4, when you're looking for your vegetable starts, make sure that you get a plant that doesn't already have fruit on it, okay? Here's an example. This is a fava bean that looks beautiful, and obviously there's no fava beans on there. But if there were, that would be an indicator that this has been in the pot for way too long. And I know as new gardeners, it's really easy to be like, ooh, but I get more bang for my buck, and I bought something that's already that's halfway to its growing destination, right? But you're really actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because it's likely to be root bound, so have way too many roots in the pot. So have really a lot of roots that are going to make it hard to plant, and be stunted. And the fruit that's on there is likely to be small and not very edible. So what you really want is to purchase a young juvenile plant, we'll use that word, that's going to grow up to be an adult plant in your garden. So a plant about this size shouldn't have any beans on it, and actually the sky looks really good. It has actually 1, 2, 3 plants in it. So you really want to make sure you break up those 3 and you have 3 individual plants that you plant out, because if you keep these all together, they're really going to overcrowd each other and never be super happy. All right, so the 5th and final thing that you really need to consider when buying starts, especially if you want to buy organic or naturally grown starts, is they're not going to look perfect, and that's okay. Some small holes in your crops like this here should not be something that would dissuade you from purchasing this start. It just means that it's not sprayed with a bunch of crazy stuff that's gonna keep those little buggies off. And this tiny little bit of damage really is not a big deal. In fact, in my garden at home, I have more damage than that because I don't spray, and I'm okay with having some holes in my leaves because I want delicious organic edible greens, and that's more important than having something that's absolutely perfect. So when you're looking at your starts, if you see little holes, or even if you see on the underside of the leaf some small leaf-eating caterpillars, it's not the end of the world. You can squish them with your fingers, you can spray them off. As long as the plant itself looks big, healthy, and happy, it's a good, suitable candidate for your garden. Now, for those of you who are really new gardeners and you do see a leaf-eating caterpillar on the underside of your leaf and you flip out, well, welcome to gardening. There's bugs everywhere. There are tons of bugs in your garden, I promise you. And you bringing home that one leaf-eating caterpillar is not gonna make or break your garden, I promise. In fact, the most healthiest, happiest gardens are the gardens that have an equilibrium of tons of pests, good and bad. They battle each other out like a Marvel versus DC comics kind of thing, and it makes an equilibrium. So it's okay if there's some pests on your start. Again, look at the overall plant, and these look stunning. This tiny little bit of damage is not going to matter in the big picture of your gardening journey. So my videographer made me do this because he has a 7-year-old son and he actually knows the difference between Marvel and DC. I just kind of pulled that out of my, I don't actually know what it means, but apparently a ladybug would be Marvel, right? And a June bug would be DC. So just so you guys know the difference between them, destructive.
Basically, I think what we're all saying here is that Marvel is better than DC,
okay,
right? So the bad bugs are DC.
Bad bugs are DC, got it. You guys can comment on this video and let me know the difference. He's an infant, so I don't know the difference, but I'm pretty sure in a couple of years I'm gonna know all the characters from both sides. Okay, so if you're just tuning in for the end of the video, that's fine. You skip through all of the other stuff. I'll give you a quick little Cliff Notes version of the 5 things that you need to know when you pick out your starts from a nursery. 1, you want to make sure they're not root bound if possible. 2, size matters. Actually, the smaller plant for the pot is a healthier, better option. 3, you want to make sure there's not a lot of yellowing or disease-looking leaves on the plant. You want a healthy-looking plant. 4, it actually doesn't help you to get a plant that has a bunch of fruit already on it. Like if you're buying a tomato plant and it has a bunch of tomatoes on it and it's in a tiny little pot, that's not a good sign. You're not gonna have a healthy plant. It's probably too root bound. And number 5, if you're buying organic or naturally grown vegetables, it is a-okay that there's a couple of holes or even some small insects on your plant. Gardening, you're gonna find a lot of insects, and it's okay that those are on there, and organic or naturally grown starts are better for the environment.